Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I'm your host and the Senior Retailer Relations Manager here at AfterShock Comics, RuthAnn Thompson. I could not be more excited for our guest tonight. We have the comic book legend, all-star, creative, and artist, Jim Starlin. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good until a few moments ago. Every time somebody refers to me as legendary, I feel like I'm getting ancient.
No, you don't have to be old to be a legend. You are a legend in and of yourself from the get-go of your career. So cheers to you. Happy hour, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
So
I've been a
there's
legend in my own mind since I was a teenager, so I guess this works
yeah.
out.
I feel like we all have that very huge confidence boot. As like for me, it was kindergarten. I was like, I am the coolest thing ever, and then the rest of the time, I'm trying to build back up to that. But you have had such an incredible career, and it's almost hard to figure out where to start. But every time we have a guest on here, we always like to ask, what was the first memory of a comic book that you remember reading? Like, what was the first one that really just brought you into this world?
Oh, I think it was when we'd go up to Torch Lake in Michigan. It was about a 12-hour trip, and I'd be in the back of the station wagon with whatever comics I could get a hold of, usually from this old used store, and I would get these copies of old Captain Marvels. I mean, the Shazam Captain Marvels, and I remember reading a lot of Adam Strange and Captain Comet, and a lot of Marvel monster books at the time.
Yeah, and your style has always been so drawn to these epic space opera type, stories. Is that like you just mentioned quite a few that had a lot of like that kind of storyline behind it? Is that what kind of sparked your interest in being a creative and really brought you into, wanting to tell these type of stories?
Well, if I was trying to convince people that I was some kind of intellectual, I would go along those lines and say, yes, going off and creating new worlds gives me a chance to write stories that are about things and themes that I couldn't do in a normal story. But the truth of it is, I just hate drawing horses and cars.
So you're basically creating worlds that just do not have horses or cars specifically.
Yes, I'm basically one of the most self-indulgent and lazy artists in the business.
I highly doubt anybody else could say that about yourself, about you, sir.
I say it proudly. I'm extremely self-indulgent. My entire career has been based on doing the wrong thing at the right time.
Well, and then how, for those who haven't picked up, let's say, the book that we have with you of The Art of Jim Starlin and don't know your history, how was it that you got into this industry?
8 years old, my dad was a draftsman at Chrysler, and he used to work on the dashboards and the seats. And he thought one of his fringe benefits was loading his briefcase up with as much tracing paper, number two pencils, and masking tape as he could stuff in every day. And he thought he was bringing these home to use with his woodworking hobby that he had. I discovered I could trace the comic book characters on the tracing paper, and I have little pictures that I had drawn up on my wall, taped up with the masking tape and drawn with the number two pencils. Uh, I eventually learned that I could do that without the tracing paper. I was still working on tracing paper because that's all I had to work with, but I started drawing my own characters, and it just sort of went from there. It started at 8 years old and went from sort of a pastime to a hobby, to an ambition, and eventually a profession, and now I'm just incapable of doing anything else. Oh, and I've lost your sound.
Oh
There you
no,
go.
that's not your fault. I have some construction going on, so I'm trying to like mute in between. But did your father ever lord that over you that basically he's the one who got you started with all those, papers and stuff he'd bring back after work?
No, he was just happy that I found something that I could do. They were quite worried about me when I was younger, and quite frankly, most of my friends after high school were dope dealers. So he was just glad that I decided not to go along that route. So he was very
Well,
happy that I found something that I could do and not get in trouble.
yeah, well, we're very glad of that as well, since you basically changed all of comic books for Marvel and so many other titles, as well as we wouldn't have like half the Marvel movie franchise that we have today without you. So also
Oh, I don't
very
know.
glad.
I think Jack and Steve and Stan put in a few characters that are pretty
Oh,
memorable there
you know,
too.
just a few.
Yeah.
But luckily, we also have some
I'm sure
amazing.
Jack still got me beat out by a long shot.
Oh yeah, because I have read that you've often said that you know that everything you learned about storytelling was due to Ditko or Kirby, since Ditko did absolutely the best layouts. So that's always so great to hear of like all of you kind of like learning from each other and getting inspired from each other and just like creating this incredible universe that we're still enjoying today.
Yeah, you pick up just about on everything you see eventually. You know, Citizen Kane to looking through illustrated books from the 1930s. Everything sort of goes into the hopper and becomes part of it. But Jack and Steve were the foundations everything worked on. And later on, there was Kubert and Carmine Infantino and Gil Kane and a number of other ones, John Buscema, Steranko. You know, these were all guys I built up upon.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So we have some amazing people watching this as well. We have one of our ambassadors here, C-list E-Man, who says, "Whoa, Jim! I know this is an AfterShock show, but I have to know what it was like to be on the set of Avengers Endgame, taking part of one of the greatest creations, Thanos."
It was fun. I went there. I've not been on good terms with Marvel editorial for quite some time. So I went there expecting to get stuck in a corner into some crowd scene and pretty well being ignored the whole day. And much to my surprise, as soon as I got on the set, the two writers, Marcus and McFeely, cornered me, and they'd been working on this job for a couple of years, and everyone who works on these things has to sign a non-disclosure form. And so they were just dying to have somebody they could talk to about it. And I got the entire story on the two movies practically. There was very little that they didn't share with me. And found myself in the unenviable position of having to keep my mouth shut for the next 2 years. It was very strange, but it was really nice. I mean, everybody on the set, Joe Russo's, Marcus McFeely, all the crew, they were just very helpful and nice. And it turned out to be much more of an involvement than I thought. First thing I discovered, I had a trailer. They stuck me in my own trailer, and the makeup people came and wardrobe changed, took away all my clothes and gave me new ones. And I had one line to learn. You know, they gave me 3 pages of scripts, and I went, "Oh God, how much am I going to have to do?" And, "Oh, one line, I can handle that." And I did for the most part, except for one scene. I kind of blew it and forgot what I was supposed to say.
Oh, I would give anything for that blooper reel. Anything.
I'm hoping it's gotten thrown out a long time ago, because I really screamed it out when it came out, when it came back to me, and everyone on the set sort of looked at each other and said, "We're not using this one."
Yeah, like, oops, never mind. Like, all
Yeah.
right. So since we're on this subject, I've been curious, and you're the only person I feel like I can ask as the creator, because there's like multiple people that even some of the characters in those MCU movies say it differently. Is it Thanos or Thanos?
I have always given it a soft A, so I go for Thanos.
Thanos. Okay, yes, I was right.
Yeah.
Huzzah! That's all that matters.
Yeah, I get that on a number of characters. Syzygy is another one, and Eddie in the Dreadstar stories. Everyone's always coming up and asking me how to pronounce those.
Yeah. And so how does it feel to be still part of the comic book world even after all those years ago creating that character? And how did you feel about their portrayal of the character of Thanos?
Oh, I feel like I'm the luckiest cartoonist around. I've seen, you know, especially some of the early movies were pretty dreadful. There was an early Ghost Rider and Daredevil to come to mind that were just, you know,
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
they're still trying to work out a good Fantastic Four movie.
I don't know how many more
So
times we can reboot that to to make it
yeah,
work.
but I've been up 5 or more times at this point. And each time Marvel's hit it out of the park with my characters. So, you know, I feel like I'm the luckiest person around in the fact that I don't have to just try and pretend I like it. I really actually like everything they've done with it so far. Even the points where they diverted off, like Drax. Gunn and Batista came up with this terrific character that they sort of cobbled together from the many versions of Drax that have been out there. And I think he's the most delightful character in the Marvel Universe, actually, even
I
more than Rocket.
Even more than Rocket, absolutely, because I do love, because there's, there are people out there that don't get subtleties or sarcasm, that kind of stuff, and so it meant a lot to people to have like a superhero that could also kind of portray that as well. And he's just, yeah, he's a great character.
And also, they had a lot of folks coming up and unjustly thanking me because they sort of consider Drax on the spectrum sort of semi-autistic, and they think it's really nice that there's an autistic hero in the midst of Marvel Comics. Wasn't intended to be so.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, taking all those different versions of him and kind of bringing it together, it kind of became this beautiful thing. And one more question from another one of our ambassadors, Rudy Vela. He says, Jim, as someone who created so much of what is being produced in other mediums, the Infinity Saga, Death in the Family, what is a piece of work of yours that you would love to see done in a live action or animation?
Well, I'm trying to get Dreadstar up on the screen. And there was one Marvel character I had been lobbying to get on screen, but I'm embargoed from saying who that is until tomorrow, after the
Ooh,
Eternals open. So
I'm seeing it tonight, so I'll find out. I'm so excited now.
yeah, you'll be surprised by the end credits.
Ooh, yes.
So you have to stay until afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. It is crazy foolish whenever I see people start getting up like after like even the first like credits start. I'm like, what you doing? Like, come on. Have you never seen a
Don't you
Marvel
know what?
movie?
Yeah, really, don't you know?
Yes, don't you? How could you not know? One more question from wow, we have a lot of our ambassadors here that are very excited to talk to you. So we have Mitch Gerwitz who asks, I always loved the way Jim drew the Hulk. I spent many hours trying to copy his work when I was 13. So very lovely, like compliment from Mitch.
Well, the Hulk was a character I always had an affinity for. When I was in the service, I was constantly sending in samples of my work, trying to get work for when I got out of the service. And they were all Hulk stories, just because I enjoyed doing him. And I could always put him in situations where there's no horses or cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your favorite thing to avoid.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also, Silas E-Man asks, working alongside with Jack, Steve, Stan, what are the tips of the trade you would give a young person who wants to be an artist that you've learned from them?
Draw everything. Just don't draw the comic book characters. Look at everything. Just don't look at comic books. Go out there and look at a lot of these old illustrators. NC Wyeth, Howard Pyle. There's a whole slew of them out there that will teach you about drawing that you won't learn by looking at comics. Look at the way movies are put together. Look at the lighting. Look at the way a story is told. I mentioned Citizen Kane earlier. That's a great one to look through just to see how you put a story together. Of course, I'm blanking out on several other examples that I think are great, but that's the one to start off with, and just look around and see what different ways there are of telling the story, because telling the story is I think even more important than being able to draw well, because I'm not Neil Adams. I don't do that kind of beautiful illustration that he does, but I can tell the story really well. And so as a result, I've always been able to get work where artists who are better artists than I am have not gotten work sometimes because they're not the storytellers that I am. So it's a balancing act between the two things.
That's
And
great.
writing, it's just read everything, write all the time.
Yeah, just
That's it.
always sounds like always keep the pencil moving either way.
Yeah, you got to do this work every day. Or I know a friend of mine, Howard Shakin, figured that if he goes without a day drawing, what he used to, I think he's taken some time off now, that he'd forget how to do it. He really thought when he was in 20 years old that If he didn't do it every day, he would fall apart on him. So, and I think that's the best way to start off, just do it. So it's part of your day. It not only does it help you improve the artwork, but it sets up a work ethic, because when you're an artist, cartoonist, any kind of freelance artist, you don't have a boss. You have to sit down and say, this is when I'm going to do this, and set aside time every day to do it.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like freelance stuff and creative stuff can actually be the most, like you have to focus the most on and be the most, like you said, like really schedule in this time every single day to make sure that you keep up with it.
I don't know how many jobs that I've worked with other artists and they got fouled up because they got addicted to some video game or something.
I love it. So we could probably talk about your like full career for hours. So I know I don't have you for too long today. So let's start talking about your titles with us at AfterShock. So we have the first book that we actually printed with you, which was a reprint of your Art of Jim Starlin book. And this is just a beautiful 328 page. So for any of those who don't, it's a big one. It's a heavy one, but
you can knock out a cow with that.
You really could. You really could.
I mean, done so.
Okay, wait, we have to stop. I want to hear the story if this really happened.
I'm just joking.
As somebody who grew up in Vermont, I'm like, cow? Like, what happened?
No, actually, it was just a large dog.
Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, it's such a beautiful retrospective volume just devoted to your entire career, like what got you started, and of your most popular and prolific comic book stuff over the last 35 years. So like, what else would you like people to know about this book for those who are going to hopefully be purchasing it later on in the live sale?
Well, I also wrote about my life a bit from that perspective point. I think this was back in the 90s. We did this book, the late 90s or something like that. So there's, a little bit of biography stuff in there, autobiography because I wrote it, I guess. It's a good sampling of where I started. It's got some of my awful early drawings, so everybody can feel better about their own, because he started off that bad, maybe I got a chance. So it's just a collection of really fun pictures, and I joke around in the story and in the text and that. But if you like my stuff, it's a good thing to put on your bookshelf or on your coffee table. It looks like something, and if you get a burglar in, you can use it as a weapon.
Exactly. It has so many uses. And then
yes, this is really read dangerously. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like this one, it's a workout too. You can get like good arm strength from reading this as well. And we've been lucky enough to actually have 2 short stories from you in a couple of our anthologies. The first one is in Shock Volume 1. And I mean, this book is just littered with people, but your story in this, I was not expecting the turn at the end. So I don't know, I don't want to give anything away. Do you want to describe a little bit of your short story in that one?
Is it about a movie theater?
That's just how it ends. Oh, you just spoiled it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It is.
I do a lot of work, so I have to,
Yeah.
remember these things. In fact, didn't I do 3 of them? Didn't I do another one? I know we have one in the new After Dark. But
that was the next one I was gonna have you talk about. So forget what Jim just said about the short story in Shock Volume 1 and just read it. But for this new anthology that just came out, After Dark, which just came out this past Wednesday, you have a very dystopian future story in that one. And so where did you how could you have possibly found the inspiration for, an Earth that's been destroyed by global warming and nuclear holocaust and whatnot? Where could you possibly have come up with that idea?
I admit that is a glaring cliche of the worst order, but I thought the idea was more about generational conflict than about how the characters got to their particular situation. Actually, this was not supposed to be in that book. Nicole and I, Nicole Jelinek, who is the artist on the story, we started to do another story, a shorter story, whose name I'm not supposed to tell at this point, but I liked the story so much, and Nicole and I started talking about it, and we've decided to expand it out to a 48-page graphic novel, which will be out through AfterShock sometime in spring. So this was the story that appeared now in After Dark is I have to come up with something for Joe because I left him Joe. I said, we're going to do this differently. And he said, but I still need something. So, there was something going on in the news at the time, as I recall, and that sort of prompted it. But, it was basically about the outlooks between someone my age and someone who was like maybe 20 or something like that. And I thought it was an amusing little story, the way they resolved their differences.
I absolutely agree. Yet another time that one of your short stories just ends like with a twist that I was not expecting at all, but has such a powerful message in it, and that actually goes right into C-list E-Man asked, "Okay, when are we getting an AfterShock Jim Starlin comic?" So you hinted a little bit to a comic book that we another thing we might be doing with you very soon, which is exciting.
Yeah, so it should be out next spring. I think Nicole has got like a handful of pages left to finish, and lettering and coloring afterwards, and it should be out there. It'll be a nice little package. It's another one of these sort of sick little stories that I really kind of enjoy. That's the nice thing about the anthology books is sometimes you come up with an idea that's really nice, but it's not big enough to build into some kind of epic, or it doesn't fit into the epics that you're working on. So I always enjoyed the old House of Mysteries and the Creepy and Eerie's and books like that, where you got a short little story. And these were terrific for when you're in the back of a station wagon going on a 12-hour trip up north. So it's really kind of nice to have that outlet to just jump into every so often.
Yeah, and you've worked in so many different formats, from creating these iconic characters and now IPs for us to these shorter stories like this. What have been your favorite parts of writing longer form versus shorter form, and then what have been the challenges of each for you?
Um, every story is different. I'm working on a Dreadstar story right now, which are 100-page graphic novels. And the first one, I just laid it out at the beginning and just went through and started drawing it. This one here, I keep changing the story. And so I'm down to like I got 13 pages left to go, and I'm still tinkering with it at the end. It's a much more complex story than the first one. And it's basically about the pandemic. It's not a pandemic story, but it's basically about this title's Dreadstar versus the Inevitable. So it gives you an idea just where the story's going. But dealing with that inevitable part of it, I keep coming up with new ideas that I'm trying to horseshoe into the story that I've already done or I have yet to finish. So everyone's different. The short stories, they usually come out with just a quick idea, and then I can sit down and do panel breakdowns, which I do for everything, even if I'm just writing it. And then I'll do up the script from there. So the short ones are exercises. The long ones are ulcers in the making.
I hope there hasn't been too many of those for you.
No, it just comes bubbling up every so often.
Yeah.
I eat some toast and everything's fine again.
Yeah. Are there any other new projects that you can tell us about before we wrap up?
Continuing to do the Dreadstars. The second one will be out early next year sometime. I've got 5 of those in the works at this point. So there'll be at least another 500 pages of Dreadstar. I'm working with a young inker on that project right now, a gal named Jamie Jameson. And she and I have become sort of writing partners too. So we've got a couple of things that we have in the works, but once again, they're far enough away where I can't talk too much about them. I can't give any names.
Yeah, no names, no spoilers, but oh. And how can everybody find you either on social media or your website?
I have Instagram and Facebook. I'm terrible about getting uh, onto it regularly. It's usually once I have something to promote, like I should have stuck After Dark on there. I haven't done it yet. Joe hasn't sent me anything to put up.
Oh, Joe.
Joe, you're in trouble. Uh, you know, I'll tell everybody right now that I never look at the messages on Facebook. I just don't have time. So don't waste yours. Basically, I'm a bit of a social media hermit. So I get out there and throw things on when it's appropriate or something bugs the hell out of me like Trump did. But otherwise I get there. I don't think I've been there in months actually at this point.
Well, I feel
I'll
like,
get on there this week sometime.
well, luckily you're well known enough that it seems like you don't even need a Twitter or anything like that. Like we'll know where to find you. And hopefully we'll be seeing you at San Diego Comic-Con this year for Thanksgiving weekend.
I will be there, and I will be in LA the following week, and somewhere in that general vicinity, I'll be doing something in Vegas.
Ooh. All right. Well,
Yes, I
we
think
look forward
Torpedo
to hearing.
Comics. Yeah,
Oh, yes, yes, they do have a great uh, place out there. We actually have one of our ambassadors who covers that shop as well. So we'll try to hook you up
yeah.
there. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today to chat with us. And thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you at San Diego and all that fun stuff. And yeah, just thank you again so much for joining.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, and for everybody watching, please stay tuned. We'll take a little bit of a break, but then we're going to come back with a ton of exclusives from Jim Starlin himself, signed by him as well at a fraction of the cost. So make sure you stick around for the live sale, and we'll see you soon. Oh, hey there. It's Rue from the AfterShock Epicenter live stream every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I just want to remind you guys, in case you missed it, we had some incredible titles that came out yesterday for New Comic Book Day on November 3rd. We have Heathens #1, After Dark, a brand new prestige one-shot from us, Campisi, the Dragon Incident, and the finale of Out of Body #5. So very exciting stuff. Make sure you head to your local comic book shop as soon as possible and pick up these incredible titles. I'll see you next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aftershock Happy Hour. And now, time for the live sale. We have some incredible stuff for you. It's all going to be exclusively to buy here. Jim Starlin and several other autographs are going to be on them, and it still will be less than cover price. So, very stoked about this. So, what we'll do is I'll go through and describe every single item that we have. And then, right before I go and describe them one more time, we'll open up the link so that way you can get everything you want very quickly. There is a 5 item limit per item, or yes, that's what I meant. 5 item limit per each of these things. So let's get started. We have a beautiful After Dark with the original cover by Tony Harris, and this will be signed by Jim Starlin as well as Joe Pruitt. And for those that don't know, this is a beautiful 48-page prestige format one-shot, because we love our puns, which was spearheaded by none other than our Aftershock publisher and chief creative officer, Joe Pruitt. And this has 4 short stories, including one, as we described briefly, from Jim Starlin, and with illustrated by Nicole Jelinek, who's just, it's beautiful. Got to check it out. We also have stories from Cullen Bunn, Frank Thierry, and Joe Pruitt himself actually adds one little short story that continues the Black Eyed Kids storyline. So if you haven't read Black Eyed Kids, it's a great way to get into it. And if you have read Black Eyed Kids, it's a great way to keep going with it. So this is the original cover, like I said, from Tony Harris. This will be only $10, even though it's signed by both Jim and Joe. There's a 25 limit on this, so make sure you grab this as well. Next up is the After Dark incentive cover by Simon Kudransky, signed also by Jim and Joe. And these is only going to be for $15. Again, only 25 of these are available because it's very small print. Last but not least, for the After Dark one shots. We have the Baltimore Comic Con exclusive by Michael Gaydos, and this is also signed by Jim Starlin and Joe Pruitt for $15. We did up this, so we have 50 available of that. So make sure, again, you grab those because they'll go real quick. For our hardcovers, we have the Shock Volume 1, which is the cover, very exclusive cover by Brian Stelfreeze. So we only printed 250 of these, and each one of these is numbered. And not only is it that like small print, but we have so many autographs on this. So we're going to have Jim Starlin's autograph, Joe Pruitt, Paul Jenkins, cover artist Brian Stelfreeze, and Francesco Francavilla. So this is a whole lot going on, and we're selling it for only $25 here today, and we only have 30 of those. So make sure again to grab those up. Next up of our beautiful hardcovers, like I said, this hefty, gorgeous thing of 328 pages of amazingness, which is the art of Jim Starlin, and that's also going to be signed by Jim Starlin himself. And we have lowered that the price of that to $40 only for this happy hour, and we only have 30 of those available. So that's a great, especially with the holidays coming up. Anybody who's a Jim Starlin fan, perfect thing to pick up. And last but not least, actually what I'm using right now on my computer, we have our AfterShock mouse pads. We only have 20 of these available. They actually went like hotcakes over at New York Comic Con and Baltimore Comic Con, and we're selling those for only $10. So that is everything that's going to be available for our live sale. We're going to open up the link, so now you can start purchasing them right away, and I'll go through all these incredible titles one more time. So we have our After Dark one shock. So we have the original cover by Tony Harris that's signed by both Jim Starlin and Joe Pruitt. And we are selling that for only $10. And there's only 15 available of these, 5-item limit, as well as the After Dark incentive cover by Simon Kudransky, signed also by Jim and Joe for only $15. And there's only 25 of these available as well. Then we have, last but not least, for our After Dark one shot covers, we have the Baltimore Comic Con exclusive by Michael Gaydos, and that is also signed by Jim Starlin and Joe Pruitt for only $15, and we have 50 of them, so a little bit more. But again, all of these items are a 5-item limit. And then for our hardcovers, we have the Shock Volume 1 cover by Brian Stelfreeze, a very exclusive cover. We only printed 250 of these, and they're numbered. And it is signed by not only Jim Starlin, Joe Pruitt, but also Paul Jenkins, Brian Stelfreeze, and Francesco Francavilla. So for any of those who absolutely love having that personal touch of the signatures of the creatives, this is the one to get. And we're selling it for only $25, and we have 30 of them available. So excellent time to pick this up. We also have the art of Jim Starlin, signed by Jim Starlin, and I can't recommend this enough. It's just it's beautifully written. There's so much beautiful artwork in it. It's perfect for your coffee table, and we're selling it for only $40, and we have 30 of those available. And then, of course, there's the AfterShock mousepad. If you want to like spruce up your workstation and show off your fandom, you can get these for only $10. And highly suggest it. It's a great working mousepad. I'll show you one, since it's not just a picture, it actually exists. It's a beautiful little mousepad, does the job, and I love the coloring of it. They did a good job printing these. They did good. So for all of these signed items, it will take a little bit longer, since Jim will have to be shipped to them, sign it, and then ship it back so we can send it to you. So there will be a 2 to 3 week wait, depending on all the shipping issues and all that kind of stuff, but you will get them within that time frame, absolutely. And let me just check the chats, make sure everybody is caught up here. I believe we have the link up as we speak. Yes, the link is live. So you guys go to town. There is a 5-item limit per each item, but this is a really good pull, because Jim charges quite a lot for his signatures, and even on top of that, we're selling these still either at cover price or below cover price. So this is the right time to pick up all these books, whether it's for yourself or for, the holiday gifts that you want to be sending out. So I can't thank you guys enough for joining us today. Wherever you're watching this, make sure that you follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that kind of fun stuff. We will be back in just 2 weeks with another happy hour and some happy hour exclusives as well. And for everybody out there, just make sure you're going to be safe out there, wash your hands, keep your distance, wear your masks, and only read dangerously. We'll see you all soon. Bye now. Oh, hey there, it's Rue from the AfterShock Epicenter live stream every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. I just want to remind you guys, in case you missed it, we had some incredible titles that came out yesterday for New Comic Book Day on November 3rd. We have Heathens #1, After Dark, a brand new prestige one-shot from us, Campisi, the Dragon Incident, and the finale of Out of Body #5. So very exciting stuff. Make sure you head to your local comic book shop as soon as possible and pick up these incredible titles. I'll see you next time.